Brought to you by Penguin.
Reacher, The Stories Behind the Stories by Lee Child. Read by Lee Child and Jeff Harding. Introduction. I was first published in 1997, nearly 30 years ago as of this writing, in an era that now feels as remote as the Jurassic in the book business. The world was still almost entirely pre-internet. I had heard of email vaguely, but I didn't have it, nor did anyone else I knew. My first editor's comments arrived by fax to an obliging local store, because I didn't have a fax machine either. I communicated with my agent by letter or landline telephone. I delivered my manuscripts as bulky packages in the mail. The upside of that era was that brick-and-mortar bookstores had not yet been laid to waste. In fact, they were thriving. New York had 4 excellent crime fiction stores, and most cities had at least 1 or 2. Their proprietors loved the genre and knew it intimately. They would call each other or get together at genre conventions to talk about hot new books and authors. That's how I got my start. Those so-called big mouths talked up Killing Floor and turned it into a major release within the genre. It became a cult hit within the community. It won several Best First Novel prizes. I had arrived at the starting line. Naturally, and of course quite rightly, by the time my second book came out, those folks had moved on to even newer books and writers. All except one. The only big mouth who talked up Die Trying was a guy named Otto Penzler. He owned the mysterious bookshop in Midtown Manhattan and was a voice worth having on your side. He was a world-renowned collector and a world-renowned Sherlock Holmes expert. He pushed Die Trying just as hard as anyone had pushed Killing Floor. I was grateful for that. Otto also ran his own indie publishing company, The Mysterious Press, and was the editor of countless short story anthologies and other ventures. He had more pies than fingers. He was always doing something, including beautifully bound special editions of titles likely to appeal to his customer base. Slowly, over the years, we became good friends, despite his irascible nature and appalling politics. On the plus side, he was a Yankees fan who had seen Mickey Mantle in his prime. He often had appealing wives or girlfriends. He had immaculate taste in food and champagne. He was funny in the kind of sardonic way that appealed to the Brit in me. And he was a gentleman. We got along very well. Eventually, he asked if he could do specially bound editions of the Reacher series. I had been asked once or twice before by other people, and I had always resisted the notion. Many of my readers were so into Reacher, they felt they had to have every edition of everything. I didn't want them to feel obliged to shell out maybe $100 for a reprint of something they already had, but in a fancier jacket. So I said no to such requests. But Otto's special editions were also limited editions, only 100 or so copies per title. His customer base was so big and so rich, he could easily find 100 people who really wanted the product and wouldn't even notice the price. So I felt there was no real risk of exploitation of the regular consumer, so I said yes. Then he asked if I would write a foreword for each title, to add value and make each edition even more special. I wasn't sure how to respond. Certainly I was flattered that anyone would want to make or buy such handsome editions of my work, but felt quite unequal to providing literary insight into it, beyond what could be gleaned from, actually reading it. I work with no plan, no theory, no structured approach, and no overarching intentions. I supposed I could pretend I had those things, and by using a little reverse engineering, I could have come up with plausible explanations for why the books turned out the way they did. But the truth is, I was always just hoping for the best, trusting my instincts, and flying by the seat of my...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?